Alright, so if you watch the time lapse of this, I wanted to kind of cover a few things what I did here to make some of these effects just with those simple brushes. Here's the 271 brush, and what I did for the body of the spider, I went up into the brush palettes, and this is what it looks like by default. So what I did is just wrap down the spacing quite a bit, and then I have hair. Okay, so that was the hair on his body. Just made it really small. And then I made quick jabbing strokes to get this effect. Alright, so that's one thing I was doing throughout the time lapse. I kind of like covering that. Kind of put this shelf back. There we go. And dig out my navigator. Okay, I added another leg on both sides just so it wasn't quite a mutant spider. But what I want to do now is add something to it. Let's say I want to add some kind of shape to the top of him. So in the layers, let's make a new layer on top of everything. And pretty soon you're going to get too many layers and we're going to have to flatten some of these. So I'm going to kind of make what the hourglass shape thing that you see on some of the spiders. So what I'm going to do is take this polygonal lasso tool and draw that shape out. Just like that. And now I'm going to fill this with white. Just like that. Now, you might think, wow, I'm going to have to really go in there and touch that up so it looks like fur. Au contraire. If you go up here, click anywhere in this box and wheel down with your mouse, what you're going to find is there's probably a setting that will lighten that area up. It's usually on screen or soft light. Soft light works pretty good. Now, what's giving it the illusion of it not working? It's got a hard edge. Okay, so that's giving it a little bit of a problem. Now, there's several things that you can do at this point. I can lower down the opacity a little bit, but it's still going to have this harsh edge in here. So, two things you can do. You can either A, blur and soften it right in there. It's still going to have an edge unless you make it a lot. And then you can blur it right in. The blurring does look pretty good actually, so I'm going to go with the blurring method. The other method is to cut back with the eraser on the outside of it. So I'll just kind of show you that on this other side. So if I take this and go back all the way to brushes, and again lower my spacing down, and I'm using this as my blur brush. So that's going to soften it up quite a bit and still make it so it looks like hair. So your custom blur brush is very handy. Okay, there we go. Now, again, when you get too many layers going on, that's one thing I don't like about CS3 is this little thing on the side. It's just annoying. But if you get too many layers, first save out your work always. Take out the background layer. Take just the spider. Edit, copy merge, edit, paste. Okay, now I have something that's made up of all the other layers. I can still always go back to the other layers if I wanted to, but now I have a spider on its own layer. One thing I do at this point is I take these layers right here that made up the spider and go layer, group layers. And then I can just turn them off. And now I have this layer and this layer. Okay, now that I have the overall spider done, then it's time to go in and clean up the outside edges quite a bit with the eraser tool. And again, I would use something with maybe an edge. And maybe a little bit lower opacity. And something that's not going to give you if I keep using this brush all the time, I'll go in that into a different lesson. Okay, so there we go. I'm able to clean up the form, not ruin the outside edges too much because I'm using an eraser that has a fur. So things that just aren't making sense, I can go in here and really kind of straighten them out. Sharpen some of these edges. Now these legs over here, they're kind of dark compared to these legs here. I'm just going to kind of brush over them lightly with this brush, kind of like that. Undo that just a little bit. Okay. If in doubt, just touch it up. If I cut too far back on things, remember I always had the liquify tool and I can always repair something very easily with this thing. So now if I want to work out the spider, if I want it to have like a cool butt, if I want to make his head so it has some nifty form, if I want to work on all the legs, I can. Just like that. If I want to not show backdrop, it's sometimes a little handy because the backdrop will actually give you the false illusion. Very creepy. Just like that. See how much straighter that looks? Alright, in the next video, I want to show you one other thing I like doing.